If they do add that discipline to Crufts, I think ratings would go through the roof.
I'd love to see it.
I've got a feeling you're fooling. I've got a feeling it's all a frame. It's just a well-known old army game, fooling with you.
So in April 2016, Scottish YouTuber Mark Meechan, aka Count Dankula, aka Fuckhead Mick Hitlerdog, became the first person to be investigated for training a dog to make fun of the German Reich, since a Finnish gentleman by the name of Tor Borg. Mr. Borg evaded prosecution despite enduring a 3-month investigation by Nazi officials in 1941 for mischievously training his dog to do a Nazi salute in response to the call sign of Hitler. The Nazis were undoubtedly criminals and mass murderers, but as the curious case of Mr. Tor and his dog quite ably show, they could also look incredibly silly. Mr. Meechan, meanwhile, did not get off quite so lightly, and after a process that lasted longer than the Nuremberg trials, he has been convicted of being grossly offensive under a slightly amended version of the Post Office Amendment Act 1935. For the uninitiated, Section 10(2)(a) of the Post Office Amendment Act was originally intended to protect lady telephonists from improper or obscene language, and more broadly, deter messages considered to be indecent or menacing from being sent by telegram or via the increasingly popular public telephone network. Mr. Meechan was convicted under an updated version, which takes into account more modern methods of electronic communication networks, with the notable exception of state-sanctioned programmed services on television or radio.
How do you get 100 Jews into a Mini, 1 in the driving seat, 99 in the ashtray? And that is not funny.
All right, well, in the unlikely event that you're unfamiliar with Mr. Meechan's current personal predicament, I've included links to relevant additional details, including an assessment of the strengths and weaknesses of the Scottish prosecution's case. The long and short of it is that he was investigated, charged, prosecuted and convicted for conditioning his girlfriend's dog to imitate a Nazi with comedic intent. He has been convicted of making a joke that could be reasonably seen by some, if not many, as being grossly offensive, and also being aware that it might be taken so. In proper context, clearly no offence was intended in the telling of the joke, to which no one lodged an actual complaint. And even though Mr. Meechan has publicly apologised for any offence caused to any hypothetical victim, the law of the land currently allows the judge in this case to take his freedom for this odious criminal act. Had Mr. Meechan made the same joke, the same odious criminal act on late night television, he would be exempt from prosecution. But because the modern method of electronic communication he used was YouTube, his rights can be removed to protect the rights of a hypothetical victim from hypothetical offence. Such is this brave new world.
I've got a feeling you're fooling. I've got a feeling you're having fun. I'll get a go by when you are done fooling with me. I've got a feeling you're fooling. I've got a notion it's make-believe. I think you're laughing right up your sleeve, fooling with me.
Rights. Boy, everyone in this country's always running around yammering about their fucking rights. I have a right, you have no right, we have a right, they don't have a right. Folks, I hate to spoil your fun, but there's no such thing as rights, okay? They're imaginary. We made them up, like the boogeyman. The Three Little Pigs, Pinocchio, Mother Goose, shit like that. Rights are an idea. They're just imaginary. They're a cute idea. Cute. But that's all. Cute and fictional. Now, if you think you do have rights, one last assignment for you. Next time you're at the computer, get on the internet, go to Wikipedia. When you get to Wikipedia, in the search field for Wikipedia, I want you to type in Japanese Americans 1942, and you'll find out all about your precious fucking rights, okay? All right. You know about it. You know about it. Yeah. In 1942, there were 110,000 Japanese American citizens and good standing, law-abiding people who were thrown into internment camps simply because their parents were born in the wrong country. That's all they did wrong. They had no right to a lawyer, no right to a fair trial, no right to a jury of their peers, no right to due process of any kind. The only right they had, right this way, into the internment camps. Just when these American citizens needed their rights the most, their government took them away. And rights aren't rights if someone can take them away. They're privileges. That's all we've ever had in this country is a bill of temporary privileges. And if you read the news even badly, you know that every year the list gets shorter and shorter and shorter.
Mr. Meacham is due to be sentenced in April and understandably is currently considering an appeal. Fortunately, when it comes to overturning life-changing acts of willful ignorance by the instruments of the state, there is at least already some precedent in this country. But the very fact that such precedent was ignored by the judge in this case makes Mr. Meacham's prosecution all the more troubling. Some find his joke so wrong that they believe the guards were right to come. Some celebrate that fact or don't care because they just don't like the cut of his jib, his actual or perceived political opinions, or even simply some of the people that have actually spoken up in his defense. Others think it's ironic that millions more people around the world will by now have heard his joke. And some remember what happens next when jokers fall silent. Some worry that the law, as it stands, can hardly have been designed better if its purpose was to generate grievances between different sections of society. And the liberalists of this country have decided that it is time to take a stand against the slurs, the separation and silencing tactics that shoddily written and ill-conceived legislation invites. So they have started a campaign calling for Section 127 of the Communications Act to be repealed. And they invite you to join it and write to your local MP. Or if you don't live in the UK, show your support by writing to the Office of the Advocate General. All the relevant links and templates are included below the line. Freedom of speech is not a privilege, be it for the many or for the few.
I've got a feeling you're fooling. I've got a feeling it's all a frame.